Yeah, unlike me, he probably wouldn't go apeshit over Taban-chan's death. But the originally was chill. That's why it's possible that he'll suspect everyone who voted for Taban instead of her. What's with the confidence? You know something about the woman? I was tense. It was entirely possible that Takumi-san was able to reveal what I was. However, I got a different response than I expected. You'll understand when you'll see her. As for the three of us that went uphill on an unpleasant rake, trickled our noses, we arrived at the concrete stairs near the dorm. Pafashi, watch where you're stepping. I thought there was no deeper meaning behind those words. Then I saw the blood near my feet. A corpse. I hadn't recognized it such. I would assume it was, but it's not because it was beautiful, but because it was so artificial. She was spread out. She was whittled down. All parts of her were torn apart, stretched in all directions. She actually covered the entire staircase. Muscle, fat, skin, tenderloin, hair, cretins, enamel, mucus parts, cartilage, eyes, limbs, clot of blood. All that had compromised this adult lady yesterday had been spread out over a large surface. It felt like I was looking at an anatomical drawing. It felt so artificial you could barely tell it was a dead human, but it didn't really know what to make of it. One thing was clear, though, that there was no special knowledge or intent behind this, and it was pure, unadulterated violence that simply departed. At the center of it all, you could find half of the bones needed to complete a human being, but a part of the face was still intact, which clearly revealed the corpse belonged to Haiso Mimiya. She died outside her room. You'll understand when you see her. This is why he said that. Chimi covered her mouth. I told her she could vomit if she wanted to. She had nothing left in her stomach, so she must have seen this. We ended up avoiding the stairs and went up. The grass below was wet. Thinking that some was caused by the fluids, I somewhat was disturbed. Haru-chan would have fainted if she saw this, though that reminded me that she too was no longer with us, casting an even deeper pull over the scene. We arrived at the dorm without anything else happening. Mochi was sitting on the stairs. It was the first time I had ever seen him sad. I thought he was unique enough to treasure something regardless if it was dead or alive. However, Haru-chan seemed to be an exception for him. Last time I found out that he liked her, but I wasn't sure if it was that simple. Nor did I see the point of thinking about it. Where's Yasu? Yasu. After getting no response, we walked past Mochi up the second floor. The door closest to the stairs was open. Yasu, you here? He was. He was on his knees, spacing out, looking utterly powerless. Get a grape. We're gonna go look for the old man Konzo. Yasu. Takumi-san rather violently shook him, and Yasunaga-kun made his first. He first didn't want to accept the despair before his eyes and kept his emotions from blowing up. It was my fault. The first thing he blamed was himself. It's the third day and I still haven't found a single wolf. No. Takumi-kan shook him again. This is all the wolf's fault. And that's not stopping the old man Konzo. Your work has just began and get a grip. Chimi, take over. She opened her arms. Asanaka-kun refused the embrace, lightly pushed her aside, and laughed. She glanced back at me for a moment. Her expression felt hesitant to me. Chimi chased after him, and I tried to take his hand, then I lost sight of him. Man, this is just horrible. I heard it from Chimi, but still. Takumi-san looked back into the room. It's messed up. I felt the same way. This was nothing like the work of the wolves from last time. Konzo had his face crushed, and Takumi had been shot in the head. Last time, Yasunaka-kun and Tei-san were both prioritized ahead. It was brutal yet effective way to quickly be taking their targets' lives. This, however, was the reverse. Haruhi-chan, empty, somewhat sad expression was preserved perfectly. Though stained by blood, her mouth, her deathly visage was beautiful in a sense. The rest of the body, though, was a complete mess. She was lying on a futon covered in aged casual clothes for some reason. It didn't seem like she bled much. It was clear that she was beat up with a blunt instrument. Everything besides her head was crushed thoroughly. She was like a pancake and the neck down. Limbs went bent in an unnatural way that made it seem like she had no... It was an excessive way to kill her face was clearly left untouched. It was openly malicious, like the killer was toying with their victim. Profiling wasn't my idea of expertise, nor was I really good at it. However, I couldn't help but draw a certain conclusion. The footprints made it clear that this was, like last time, the work of the wolves. However, these wolves were far crueler than the previous bunch. To search for Konzo, we left up the cleanup for later and quickly returned to gather the others. Mochi Yasunaka-kun joined us, and the 5 of us went to Nasato's mansion to meet up with Kiyonosuke, who was just passing through the gate. He was surprised that 2 people had died and that he was bothered. He has a gun, doesn't he? That seems dangerous. The old man I know would never use it on people. He's like a different person with the mist around, though, he added. Konzo had already pointed his gun at people Takumi-san didn't want to see. His blind faith in the locals had vanished, and it probably wasn't virtuous in the general sense that this situation, that naive, had been his only weakness. We went to Tei-san's house, passing this supposedly empty. We still couldn't find Konzo in anything out of the ordinary. After that, we went back to the plaza. In the dining hall, we found Yoshitsugu-kun and the woman, who were now dressed. They looked worried. We left Kiyonosuke and Yasunaka-kun. Yasunaka-kun was still in a state of shock, and everyone wordlessly agreed. Then we went to the north, downhill, and we couldn't find anything. Takumi-san then parted some bushes for some reason, and it turned out the old wolf guy lived there. This made me realize that this hadn't been his place yet. Once we arrived there, my impression was that it didn't even look like a house. It was more like a wooden shed or a storage room with frames. It honestly didn't seem like it would qualify as a shelter. It wasn't much at all. There were lots of useless things, like small pieces of cloth and rusted farm tools. Apparently he had a tendency to go around Yasumitsu and collect these sort of things. He wasn't in the hut, or an open doors made us nervous. There was no dead body inside. After some searching, we found the old wolf guy laughing around Pine, and he joined us. We knew the whereabouts of everyone except Konzo-san, and the body counted remained at 2. Then we checked Konzo-san's house again, and it was still empty. And so we returned to the dining hall. Despite the tension, Kori-san began making food, and it was important. It was rice gruel again, and no one complained. Takumi-san insisted we go searching again, but the others began to think that was a waste of time. Some assumed that he either left the settlement, got stuck in some pond or field, or it was taken by the corruption. That those were all major problems that would require us to find him ASAP. Most just didn't want to continue this. It seemed to me that while Konzo-san may have had a lot of influence here, and many depended on him, a lot of the villagers had a latent aversion to him. In the end, though, we just couldn't ignore the possibility that he might have been lurking somewhere with his gun in hand. Once again, for the first time, the Slooponaways, a search party was sent out. Takumi-san, Chimi, Mochi, and I went all around the misty settlement, but we couldn't find him.
何なのかな、一体。
なんか無駄なことしてる気がしてきた。
I had no evidence, but I felt the same way. Soon enough, we just went back to the plaza. Mako. It was all while since I had last spoken to her. We hadn't talked once yesterday, and it seemed like it's been a while. What's wrong? Where's Reikiko?
難しいお話してるから遅っ。
何やってるのよ食堂は。この子外に出して何かあったらどうする気なの？
めいこちゃんもタエバー投票組だしね。
め
Anyways, what's up?
おじいちゃんいたよ。
What? Old man, what are you doing? He's been right under our noses. The hall where we held the feast. He was exactly where he would be during the feast. Right next to him was an empty bottle of divine
肝臓お
sake.
じいちゃん。
言うな。
He pushed away the bottle and stood up. He didn't seem the least bit drunk. In fact, his eyes were even sharper than usual.
もうおらん。あとは宴を終わらせる。もうそれだけよ。
In other words, the daily morning patrols he was always doing were for Haru's-chan's sake. So now that she was gone, the only place for him. So you're waiting? Replied with silence and sat down again, bringing his rifle closer to him.
まだ時間あろうが。
If we let ya wait here, everyone's gonna be nervous. Give me the gun, we'll put it back.
戻れ。
Give me the gun. Instead of replying, Kanzo took his gun and aimed at
食
Takumi-san.
堂に戻って昼まで待て。
The scene seemed symbolic to me. Kanzo wanted to be led by force and demonstrate that with his killing instrument. At this point, no one could get in his way, leading the feast. But then something I didn't expect happened. It was right when Kanzo seemed to have finished talking. Takumi-san grabbed the front of the gun with his hand, pushed it aside, took a step forward, punched Kanzo right in the face. Also didn't expect the old man to instantly retaliate. In less than a second, Kanzo let go of the gun and threw a punch right in the Takumi-san's face. Blood gushed as Takumi-san's face was distorted in pain. However, that wasn't enough to take him out. A slap from the left hand, the base of the palm clearly hit Kanzo's face. He hit the wall behind him with a loud crunch. Kanzo-san stood up. It was an opening. I grabbed the hunting rifle and gave it to Chimi. Things were going so fast that I forgot that I wasn't supposed to know that she knew her way around guns yet. Take it apart and throw it away. But Takumi-san understood my intentions. Chimi turned around. Kanzo-san tried to chase after her, but Takumi, Mochi, and I held him back. I know how you feel, but guns are unfair.
卑怯でな。誰も信じられん。休みずは守らねばな。
You can trust someone. Takumi-san glanced at me, but I couldn't agree with him in this situation. I could reveal myself to Kanzo, but not in front of Mochi. Even if someone had been eavesdropping on us when I told Takumi-san, it still wasn't time to reveal it. There's one thing that's clear. The wolves went for Haru-chan to get to you. You understand that, don't you? Making the situation even harsher like you are right now is exactly what they
断
want.
言するな。
I do. After all, everyone is starting to fear you.
そそのかしたのはお前らじゃろ。
If it weren't for the gun, I'd be apologizing for suspecting you by now. Then they fell silent and glanced at each other. Where'd you get everyone here? We should start the feast right now.
そうかもね。じっちゃん一人で置いとくのもなんだし。
Kanzo grunted, displeased, but offered no more protests. Honestly, there was no real reason why the time for when the feast started had been decided when it was. Konzo-san was only doing it on the same time as the first day. In fact, he insisted on the usual time so strongly that he brandished his gun over it and made me feel like he was more obsessed with the control over the situation than actually thinking things through. At the base of it all, there was mistrust. He couldn't trust anyone, so he simply repeated what brought him to success. It'd be good if that led us to victory, but the feast really had to be approached like a game. There was no single way to win, and there was competition. If you could read the enemy strategy, you could also outplay them. That was significantly easier for the wolves. It was best to assume that they understood exactly how Konzo-san thought, and that was why they had to target Haru-chan. It was necessary to rethink our own game. It would all depend on how today's feast went, especially for myself since I was the snake and had to survive no matter what. Everyone drank. Alright, we're starting the feast. Haru was killed by the wolves last night. We won't let her death go to waste. We'll find the wolves and end. There was whispering, though people wondered if that was really possible. Takumi ni, I thought I'd love to do that too, but what are you planning? Can't say just yet. Good move. I hadn't explained my intentions to him yet, but he had a vague idea of what I was planning. The cure word was fixed majority. If he understood that clearly, he would have a chance at winning.
言わずに信じると思うか、匠。
After all that happened today, I'm kind of worried Konzo-san wouldn't say anything, but that wasn't what happened. He also wanted to give his all to the end this feast for the victory. That was why he couldn't just stay quiet and let us all die and continue pushing his approach to the feast. Yeah, can't say it. That might change though. By the way, what were you planning to do today?
昨日タイバーに投票したもんから順にくくっていく。
I knew it. I could hear whispers of perplexity and fear. His targets today would be the four who voted for Tae-san. Basically, the old wolf guy, Yoshitsu, Reiko, and Meiko. Hold on.
記者の女が狼だった。
How do you know? Because her corpse was outside. Yasunaka-kun seemed to have recovered a little and was now doing what he'd had to again. In the feast, you're supposed to get one death per day and one per night. The fact that 2 died in one night means that something unusual happened. Haru-chan was dead in her own room because she was visited by the wolves. Mimiya-san's body was outside her room, and judging by its state, she was probably taken by the corruption.
はるちゃんもひどい様子だったよ。
I know, but her case was still something that could have been done by humans. Mimiya-san was on the whole nother level. What about it? She just walked around at night, didn't she? Yeah, exactly. Then why would she be a wolf? That's because... Wait, Yasu, let me say it. Okay. That woman was acting weird all day. The old man said he'd hang her, so I can't say I don't get her. What would happen if her death was all but certain? An outsider would try to escape Yasumizu, right? She'd think she could run away, but the lady didn't do it. Yeah, she hadn't even tried to run. What of it? If you're running away, it'd be better to do it during the day. Even with the mist, you can see stuff better in the light. There's really no reason not to run away during the day. The mist would hide her and let her escape. If she ran away yesterday, after we all split up in the evening, she could have gotten to the very edge of Yasumizu, but that's not where she succumbed to the corruption. Maybe she had some other reason for going out at night. About that, anyone else but me here tried to stay awake at night? That question came out of the left field, but Yasunaka-kun, Chimi, Yoshisugu, and I raised our hands. Didn't you say you stopped? We ain't talking about going outside, are we? I took a stick to my futon in case someone came for me.
夢枕の金に挑まれたのですか？
Yeah, just 2 nights ago. Like Yoshi, I grabbed a weapon and waited for something to come, but I still ended up falling asleep. Can you believe that? The whole thing's such a crisis. You shouldn't be able to fall asleep at all. Yet, before you know it, you wake up and it's morning. It's not that you're not allowed to stay up late. You just can't. It's one of the things that freaks me out about the feast. You should know if you tried to stay up, only the wolves can move around at night. That's because she was an outsider. An outsider or not, the feast is above all of us. If she's being an outsider as an excuse, the journalist wouldn't have fallen to corruption. I had the mysterious experience of being spared by hiding in the toilet, but I had no choice. Hashimoto-san, the large cameraman, died by going out at night, didn't he? I don't know much about that, but if I gotta guess, he died because he wasn't sheltered properly. Cleanse, shelter, as long as you have those two covered, you'll definitely fall asleep. But if you stay up outside right from the start, it's just an assumption though. Yeah, it is. You can ignore it if you want. But if the woman was a human, she'd have no reason to risk going outside. She's a wolf who was walking around at night, messed up somehow, and got punished for it. That's the only possible explanation. Yasunaga-kun and Yoshitsugu both fell silent. They couldn't argue against that anymore. Sure, it was strange, but just somehow fell asleep. But there were some cases of people going out at night, both this and the previous time. I'd have to think about it some more later.
それを知ってらした。
夜外に出るもんは2種類だけよ。狼か、狼殺そうとして犬死にする。
With how important the dreaming law was to the locals, it was natural for them to assume that anyone who went out at night was a wolf. When you looked at it that way, Yoshitsugu, who insisted on going out, was extremely reckless. That's why Haisako Mimiya was a wolf, so Bachan, who she set up as a wolf, was clearly a human. Isn't it possible that both of them were wolves? I fell for him. It was his vote that killed Keisan, even if he was prepared for it. That's not possible, but extremely unlikely.
それはないわ。
No, it wasn't.
昨日くくられた山脇さんは皆さん黙っていましたが、私は
What? What? Seriously?
バカな息子が無礼な口を閉じないこと、山脇さんを死に追いや皆様の、特に山脇さんを親のように大事に思われていた匠さんからの責めは、だからどうかこの子は見逃してやってください。
Her voice was sincere, sorrowful, but she put her hands in front of her and placed her forehead on the floor. Stop. I'm the one who voted. You had nothing to do with that. That's probably how I looked yesterday. Takumi, don't worry. I know, Kori-san. Yoshi, we ain't talking about who's to blame for
で
Bachan.
も
Nobody but no one said it was a mistake back then. Votes that killed her were more like something to help us decide what to do, not some sin that the noose around your neck. Is that right, Yasunaga-kun? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I won't forget the wolves, or whoever got them killed. With the old man on that. Something bothering me. Can I say it, Takumi? Do we have anyone else claiming to be the crow?
安永
I know, I want to believe, but this is what's expected of me. Do you have any other crows besides Cory? Aki, you damn...
吉次いいから。安くん
I felt like the power balance here was Yasumizu was shifting, Kanzo-san was losing his influence, and Takumi-san authority bridged the generations. However, this was a temporary thing that could only last when Kanzo-san's high-handedness was filling. It would be turned around if someone messed up or was hanged today and drove someone over the edge. I will say this just in case, but if you are real and you're keeping your silence, you're being nothing but a burden for us. If you know Koriyorobi is fake and stay silent despite that, you won't be recognized as real. You decide to claim later, understand? His words felt like they were directed at me, too. Looks like we have no one. Wait, we had no one come out against Mimiya's claim that was the snake, and she turned out to be a wolf, didn't she? Now we have a whole 3 less people than yesterday. Isn't it a bit too early to decide she is real? She's just because no one is revealing themselves now? Yes, you are right, but the possibility that Teiba or Mimiya were the crow is extremely low. Exactly, Teisan would have revealed that before she was hanged, while Mimiya wouldn't have had a reason to pretend. There's nothing that says Haru-chan wasn't the crow, but I know that she was absolutely terrible at lying, keeping secrets. She didn't act like she was hiding a guardian, and we were together most of the time. I'm confident I would have noticed any signs that impelled that she was the crow. The possibility that Koriyorobi is a wolf, who realized that Haru-chan was the crow before I did, and then killed her to take her spot is pretty much 0. There's also the possibility that Haru-chan hid her role until the end, and the wolves just happened to hit the crow by killing her. But that unlikely too. None of those who died were the crow. Can you agree with that? The proof that Haru wasn't the crow is thin. You weren't the only one close to her, were you? If a wolf that was also close to her realized she had a guardian and told Koriyorobi, you can't deny that possibility. Yasunaka-gun kept his eyes straight to me. It seemed like it was a way of preventing those doubts from taking roots.
もしかして今の僕
そんなのないって。モッチーがハルちゃんを。
I wouldn't be so certain, Chini, but I don't believe he did it either. What's your proof? What's this strange silence? It didn't look like he had nothing more to say, more than it was hard for him to say
や
it.
だなおっちゃんも言ってたじゃん僕は桔梗の振る舞いはるちゃんとやっすんはね僕が好き放題しても許してくれるから僕は二人がいいやつだってこと以外全然やっすんも言っていいんだよ僕がそういうやつだって
I wouldn't say so. Anyways, I find it hard to believe that Haru-chan was the crow that killed because of it. I think the crow is still alive.
はい。私はカラスです。
I see. Very well. Even I understand I am pushing it with the theories, so I shall keep it to myself. However, since we state about the snake as the real one is still alive, right? He was right. That was the right way to look at it. It was also true. Let us push aside the reason why he or she didn't say anything when the fake came out. Is there a guarantee that the same thing is happening again? What if another fake shows up and the real one's keeping their silence, just like yesterday? You're just pushing it again. There's no way she's lying. If the journal was a wolf, then the old hag was a human. Even a fake has no reason to lie, if the goal is to make people trust you. Even if another crow shows up today, they could only tell us the truth we already know. You would have no way to tell whether Lady Orobi or the other one was a real crow. If he was the modest and cautious one, he would be way more valuable to the humans. I must object to that. After all, Mimiya was a wolf who wanted the guardian to stay alive. However, Koriyorobi revealed her guardian while begging to take all the blame for Yoshitsugu. It's either wise nor right, but I believe it's the real her talking. Foolishness proves it. That is my reason for believing Korobi.
よし
Kori.
が狼なら織部の神さんはかばおうが
My heart skipped a beat. Kanzo's voice was like a rumble, just like before. It was dense. He had a point, too. If it were for her sons, Kaori was capable of breaking the feast's mental shackles. The old fart. He's not the type of guy. He spoke forcefully. He was a wolf. He'd declare it and go around killing directly. It's just how he is. He's like our parents, straightforward, stubborn, and won't accept anything. It doesn't sit right with him. If he had to die to prove Corey Arobi's innocence, he surely would do it. It's not something that I, the only sly coward in the family, can do. Don't act like you know shit. If you spent more time with Mom, she'd... I do know. My cunning comes from my Higuchi blood. Mom had no reason to love me. That's why I'm working hard and studying so I can pay her back with money. You should be more grateful that she loves you, just because you were born honest. Why are you bringing yourself down so much? Anaki, listen up, you...
黙れ二人とも
The mother's voice quickly silenced her son's.
この大事な時に何をくだらないことで言い争ってるのか牧島勘蔵さん
The old man grunted in response to the mention of his name.
私の亡父樋口定義が亡くなったと聞かされた前後夫は読み意味のあなたが殺したのですか
奴は最初の日に
Old man,
わしはこれまで2度宴に出てきた生き残ああ昔かで
いいえいいのですたとえあなたがただ安永義継私はもう家族を宴に奪われたくないのだからお願いだから
I didn't say I have anything against that. Me neither. Hey, sorry to bother you, but this really ain't the time for a family... feud. The fact that the old man's been in a feast doesn't matter much right now. Konzo-san clicked his tongue. I believe that the Arobis, Yasu's the monkey, while Yoshi and Kori-san aren't the type to lie. That makes it all clear that Teiba and Haru were humans, while the old journalist was a wolf. We have 2 more wolves and 10 humans left here. Out of them, the old man, Yasu, are confirmed to be monkeys. It's likely that Kori-san is a crow. I trust Yoshi too, but it's not like we have any previous human, so I won't add him here. Fine by me. Now how do we proceed? If it's still living, Real Snake has the right info. This feast might be as good as over. There it was. What do you mean? If the snake reveals themselves in the state that 2 more of us are human, that would confirm 6 humans, meaning we would have half of the votes. With those 6 being confirmed, it is unlikely that the rest would vote for the same person, meaning that victory would be as good as ours. Fixed majority. Exactly. And we would hang one of the 6 unknown, while the wolves would kill one of the 6 confirmed humans. Their primary target would be the snake, but it's likely the spider is still alive. But if he or she protects the snake tonight, we would have 1 less confirmed human, 1 less unknown, and gain another confirmed human or wolf tomorrow. It'd be either become 6 humans and 4 unknown, or 5 humans and 4 unknown, and 1 wolf. The confirmed humans would become a majority regardless. This number couldn't be turned around, so we would most certainly win. The snake's gotta find 2 humans. Even if he does find a wolf, he'll only have 5 confirmed humans. In that case, even if we hang the wolf, we'd still be left with 4 confirmed humans and 6 unknown. The humans' victory wouldn't be ensured. Of course, hanging a wolf would give us a great advantage, and if the snake comes out, the wolves wouldn't keep quiet either. Personally, I won't promise that. I will certainly kill whoever reveals themselves. The snake's reveal could help bring certain things into the open. That was the opposite of Konzo's approach. But if the snake only looked into those who died, like Haru, he or she should stay quiet. Only in that case, I would like the snake to reveal himself. I had to think. As info, I had enough. I couldn't tell them that I used my looping gather. That was why I could only reveal 2 results, one for yesterday and one for today. I'd already told Takumi. Thus, it was important for me to reveal that, along with someone, the identity would help us. If I continued my silence, then they believed that the snake wasn't fulfilling his duties properly. It was a do-or-die situation. I had the evidence to reveal myself. I had a safety plan all set up. However, I also knew it was a ticking time bomb that would throw things into chaos. Still, I already made up my mind, so I couldn't hesitate. Yes, everyone looked at me when I raised my hand. I was nervous, but now I spoke up. I, Haru, am the snake. I informed them without hesitation. I investigated Takumi Moro is human, and Takumi is a wolf. What was that? Mochi's a wolf. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Naturally, there was more commotion and chaos over my son. Wait, that's not impossible, but why did you investigate him?
そうだよ。それに春明さん、一度はカゴ
I didn't say anything back then because there was a high probability I would have been killed if I revealed myself. Obviously, I knew Mimiya was lying about being the snake. If we both survived, the spider wouldn't know which one of us to protect. If I had said something, the wolves would have had the perfect opportunity to find and kill the real snake.
おお、なるほど。
Don't you get it? You're being accused of being a wolf.
そうだな。僕は自分が狼じゃ。そうなると、ハッサンが狼ってことになる。
I suppose that idea makes sense if Mimiya was a wolf. And would another wolf really play as a
記者
snake?
が狼だとは決まってね。
Konzo-san tried fighting back.
町のもんはわからねえ。蛇でも何でも死ぬ思うて。
Shall I take that as a sign of support? His silence was not primarily out of doubt for me, but just the same as his old habits. I believe I was asked why I looked into him. The reason is because he wasn't acting like himself. He's normally sharper than this, and not the type who keeps quiet about his ideas. Yet this time, he chose his words quite carefully, almost like he was saying he can't act on his intuition.
なんか前にも見てきたような物言いだな。
You see, this was exactly the part of him that scared me. That was merely my option, an observation that led me to investigate you. That's all.
いや、気になるぞ。ハッサンが僕らのことを前から知ってるなら、長者の回し。
There's also your odd tendency to aggressively towards me, just that caused me to suspect you just now. I took a peek at everyone's face. Takumi was bewildered, as he should be. Are you saying... Konzo's eyes widened. Apparently, he finally understood that Spike Wolf could be the one who killed his daughter. Yes, that would be the
あ
case.
りえないな。僕にハルちゃんとヤッスン以上に大事なもんなんて、りっちゃんや皆の衆には悪いけども、新内さんや掟や宴だ、そんな僕がどうしてハルちゃんを。
If you truly are mad, then you have motive enough. After all, mad people can treasure their loved ones, whether they're alive or dead. It makes no difference.
確かに。
Cut it out, Moji. Did you really?
めんどいな。ハッサンさ、僕はこういうの苦。
Sorry, but I can't let my guard down around you. I've learned well over the past few days that your brain is different.
ヤス君、モッチーがそうじゃないって証拠とか。
You should have already realized it, but no, I don't. Don't have any, Mochi.
ごめん。そんなに、だから逆に怪しくないと。
確かに近持くんは
But even if he was given the role of a wolf, I can easily see him maintaining his stance is eccentric to not think for himself. He's just followed Yasunaga-kun and voted for Nosato. Fortunately for him, his disposition wasn't suspected, but I actually think it was pretty cunning. So long as someone Yasunaga-kun didn't want to view as an enemy was a wolf. Yasunaga-kun is merely a monkey, therefore definitely human. But if Mochi were to say that, to suddenly vote for someone else, in the end, he was in a position where he could vote freely without attraction.
いろいろ言うなよ。僕には特に言うことがないん。
But that's just the feast of the Yomi
じゃあ
Purge.
くくればいいじゃん。
Mochi, please say something, anything. Tell us you're not a wolf.
僕は、お、
Look at me.
やだなあ、やすん。
Oh, come on, Yasun.
僕はもともと、目を見て話す感じのやつじゃないじゃん。
I don't even look at other people, he said with a smile. The vote was held afterwards. Yasunaga-kun abstained from voting. Chimi, Kori-san, Kanzo, Mochi all voted for me, while the rest voted for Mochi, sealing his fate.
やっすんさ、泣くなよ。
I'm sorry, Mochi. I'm sorry I couldn't save you.
いや、
Hey, you
な
know,
んていうか、謝んないでよ。
does that mean...
狼じゃないよ。でも、ハッサンに勝つ準備とかはしてなかったからさ。
Don't leave me. Without you or Haru,
や
I'll
っす
be
ん
all
に
alone.
はママもヨッシーもいるだろ
When it comes to them, No, forget
う。
it.
チューでもしたろっか
Cut it out, idiot.
ごめんな。こういうの、じゃあ、頼むぞ。
Rise not.
落ちなかれ
Push towards. To the mist, and the rope went taut.
もっち
Mochi. Everyone stood there, frozen in place, while I headed for the plaza. I felt sick. Takumi caught up with me. He really was a wolf, wasn't he? No doubt about it. But, yes, he died as a human to the very end. I kept getting the urge to tell him to quit playing the victim. I wanted to tell Yasunaga-kun that this guy was the girl who was his own sister. But what good would that have done me? The shock will feel when it is revealed. But there was nothing else I could do. Sounds like you really are fretting over this. Don't be. I'm a member of Yasumizu. I will fulfill my duty as the snake. Thanks. It was good I've gotten Takumi-san on my side, but as a whole, it didn't feel like any of this had gone well. I felt a really bad taste in my mouth. After that, I lost my job at the kitchen. Well, I hadn't exactly lost it, but since Kori-san had voted for me, I was restraining myself. Yoshi Sitsugu took over the work while I secluded myself in the hut. It was Takumi who suggested it. He said it was the best I watched out for any potential attacks now. He took over, testing the food for poison. I remember what he said. If the spider is still alive, I'd say they should protect you. If you're telling the truth, then there's just one wolf left. I want to settle this as possible. So I told him I'd do everything I could. It felt like Takumi-san and I had grown rather close. And no, not in the way you would make boy love fangirls squeal with joy. I gratefully took my food and was happy to get away from the Makani atmosphere that lingered after Moji's death. Takumi-san was right, just one wolf left. From my point of view, I had 5 candidates left. One day may not be enough to corner them. Did I have any way to ensure I could end it tomorrow? This was a problem. For now, I'd investigate who considered the most suspects. As long as the spider protected me, the rest would be a war of... However, I never woke up after that night. Why? What happened to me? I didn't even know. I felt not even the slightest bit of pain. but like the dense mist outside my sleep appeared to have engulfed me. Did the spider not protect me? In the end, the loser wasn't even allowed to entertain that thought. Let's go! I got another bad ending. With him, me, and Takumi, we would have 3 more confirmed humans, a completely fixed majority. For that, I had to believe that Kori-san was the crow, but that seemed reasonable to me. After a bit of hesitation, I had to hurry. The wolves must have been conflicted right now. They had to be considering whether they could start faking before I spoke up. I had to declare it. Yes. And we will see what happens next time in the next Raging Loop.